Hello everyone, and welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces. This week on Liminal Spaces, we're looking at the films and the books in the Ring universe. Specifically, just the first book and the films that were based on that book. Very exciting week. I absolutely adore all variations of this film. When I went and saw the American one in theaters in 2002, I hadn't seen a horror movie probably since the Blair Witch Project that had really excited me. And even then, it didn't get me back into horror like the American Ring did. Like that was such an influential film for me, and it scared me so bad. So I'm very much looking forward to this week. All right. In this video specifically, we're going to be looking at Koji Suzuki's 1991 novel, The Ring, which I believe is his second novel. This was translated into English by Robert G. Ronmer and Glyn Wally. Glyn Wally. Very difficult to read their names on the cover of this book. And it doesn't talk about it in the wiki article. In fact, this is the only place I've ever seen the translation listed is in this little circle right here on a cover that's very difficult to read. So hopefully I said their names right. And this is a completely different animal from the movies that it spawned. There is a lot in this book that doesn't find its way into the movies. And it may find its way into the later movies, but we're not going to really be covering those. We're just going to be looking at the movies that were inspired specifically by the story in this book. Basically the first Ring videos that were made from country to country. And this piece really sits on the line between horror and mystery and even a little bit of sci-fi. I know that I've said this a couple of times on this channel, but we recently got the Ring box set, and on the first disc there is a interview with the Japanese director of the first Ring there that talks about the fact that he feels like the book really truly was originally a sci-fi book. And I don't think I could go that far, but I think there are absolutely elements of sci-fi in this. Another kind of subgenre or category that I could put this into is medical horror. But we'll get into all of that a little bit later. But now just a quick synopsis of what this film is about. It's about a man named Kazuyuki Asakawa, and he works for the Daily News, and he randomly falls into a story because of the death of his niece. His niece dies of sudden heart failure, which is very strange because she was a very healthy young kid, high school kid, that shouldn't have any heart problems whatsoever. So he's got that on his mind, and then suddenly he finds 3 other cases of kids that have died from sudden heart failure, and they all seem to have died on the same night and the same time as his niece. So his investigation eventually leads him to a lodge where he discovers a videotape with a strange bunch of images on it. And this tape basically curses him to die in 7 days, which is such an incredible idea. And I know that we're now in a world where this idea has been around for 30 years, but from the book. But it's still such a good idea, and I cannot express how amazing this was at the time, because cursed objects have been around forever, right? We have the monkey's paw and all this kind of stuff. But this was the first time that I ever came across a cursed object that was updated to such a modern object. And that being the video cassette. And I know that after this movie, people took that idea a lot further. We had phone, from Korea, which is an incredible movie. I'll probably do a look into that eventually, or Jason will, my brother. We've had One Missed Call from Takeshi Miike, another incredible series about a cursed phone, and so on and so forth. This set the stage for this idea of a cursed object that is connected to modern technology. And that was such a brilliant idea. And I think it was first Koji Suzuki's idea before it was anybody else. Or at least that's where I first came by it. And it was just incredible. So the videotape tells him he has 7 days to live unless he does a specific charm. But the last people that watched it, his niece and the other kids, in a kind of a prank mindset, erased what the charm was to do to avoid the death. So right at that point in the videotape, a commercial comes on that they recorded off TV covering up what they need to do to not die. So he's cursed to die in 7 days. He's got the proof of the fact that 4 people have already died from this cursed videotape, so he takes it very seriously, and he has to go and figure out exactly what is going on with this tape. He enlists the help of his friend Ryuji Takayama, who is a professor at the local university, and together they have to try and figure out exactly how this videotape came into existence and how they're going to fight it. Unfortunately, Asakawa's family, his wife and his daughter, are also pulled in when they see the videotape, so the stakes are really very high that he find this videotape, or that he find the mystery behind this videotape and is able to save himself, Ryuji, and his family. If you've seen the 1998 Japanese Ring movie, this is a grittier, darker version of that story. The Japanese Ring did some amazing things for this story and changed this story in what I feel is better. Do I think the book is better than the movie? They're different. They're different. They talk about two different things. In this case, I don't think I can give a value judgment to which one is better, because they both have such glaring, awesome aspects of them. The prose in this is easy to read. They're good. I never was pulled out by bad writing, but it also isn't writing. It's not writing that's so incredible that I feel like I want to read everything by him. The prose were smooth. Unfortunately, of course, I'm reading this in translation, so I don't know when I say that if I'm making a statement about Koji Suzuki or the translators of this novel. We can't really know, but what I have found is that it flowed really well without being flowery or anything. It was basically simple prose, easy to read. The characters are all very flawed and very interesting. Asakawa is constantly terrified and is portrayed as cowardly and weak in many situations. He depends very much on Ryuji. Ryuji is an even more complex character. He's either a sociopath with unsolved crimes in his background that Asakawa just kind of ignores, or he's a compulsive liar and very sensitive spirit that creates this nihilistic shell in order to try and impress people and gain more friends, because he has a very hard time with friends. He reminds me of characters in new Murakami novels. I don't know if you're familiar with him. The one I've read by him is Coin Locker Babies, which is a very dark and gruesome wild ride, and Yuji, I think, is the darkest and grittiest part of this whole novel. I found myself alternatively absolutely hating him, being very confused by him, and thinking that he and Asakawa were a perfect match for this novel. In the end, Sadako's backstory Sadako is the one that creates the videotape. Sadako's backstory in this is the reason to read it. It is twisty. It is strange. Her life is strange. Who she is as a person is strange. All of it is very much worth a read. I don't really want to talk about anything else beyond that because it will give too much away. If you're interested in this book, you should absolutely read it. If you enjoyed the Ring stories, you should absolutely read this book. I will be doing a deep reading, which will be coming out in a few days, so you can look forward to that, although, of course, that will be all plot spoilers, so make sure to give the book a read first. So if I had to grade this book, I would probably go with a 7 out of 10. And I know that seems very low for us. And it is lower than what I usually give. And I think the reason for that is because I personally have high expectations for what I look for in literature. I like to be really, really challenged when I read a book. And there was nothing really challenging in this book. It was very straightforward in the story that it told. However, I think that as a horror book, just for a good time horror book, I would give it a much higher ranking. It's definitely... In fact, I think I did include it in my top 10 horror novels, which you can find on the channel here as well, because I liked it very much. When I read it the first time back in the 2000s, and when I read it this time, both times were very enjoyable readings. There's themes in this that are intense, but dealt with very well, I think. And I'll be going into those more in the deep read. So, yeah, if you're looking for a good horror read and you're a fan of The Ring, you should absolutely read the source material that it was based on. Thanks, everyone, for watching this to the end. If you liked this video, please click like. And if you like this kind of content, please subscribe. We're going to have a lot more of it in the future. Thank you so much for watching.